Okay, what's up, everybody? Will is jumping on here in just a second as well, but we are super excited to do this today. We've been thinking about this for a while, really been putting a lot of work into digging up everything we can. Hey, Will, how's it going?
Hello, how's it going?
Going well. But yeah, we have been just unearthing whatever we can about Stanley to really take this breakdown stuff that Will has been doing to the next level. And so we are super excited to jump in and show you what we've got. So Will, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, it's really exciting. So this is first off like going to be a new series we're trying to start called Why Brands Work, and we're going to be taking our breakdowns to the next level and really diving deep into them. And I'm excited that the first one we're doing is live. So if you're watching, we will be doing some Q&A at the end, but we're just going to sort of zoom through this and break down this brand in much more detail than what we've done in the past. So I'm excited.
Yeah, agreed. And we're doing it live, so there could be technical difficulties as we go through the process, but we'll just try and push through and see what happens. And yeah, we'll try and keep an eye on the comments and things like that. If you have anything, we'll definitely answer some questions at the end. So if you have anything, make sure that you throw those in the chat. So what do you say we just get started, Will? Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, great. So why Stanley works. Let's break down exactly why the story, the marketing strategy, and the funnel of honestly the world's most coveted cup. There's a lot going on right now around Stanley. Everybody wants one, and let's talk about why. So first of all, why should we care about Stanley? They have had around 1,000% growth in just 3 years. So 2020 to 2023, they grew from around 70 to 75 million to 750 million.
Yeah, it was
Just in that
a 10 bagger in 5 years.
yeah, which is absolutely insane. And they did it on the back of you know completely switching the market that they service. All of the people that we associate kind of with Stanley now, the new market, moms, there's the whole market of girls and kind of the softer colors and things like that. That was not what Stanley was before, and we'll jump into that. And they've done a full digital transformation. They were not a like D2C brand really before. And the products that they sell now wasn't even really in their product catalog. So there's a lot of change that they went through, and then with that change, 10x their entire business.
Yeah, I think that digital transformation piece is huge too, because if you're a legacy brand, we're going to talk about this. It's really hard to digitally transform, and like how they were able to shift from legacy and dealing with all the issues of being a legacy brand to now being like almost kind of like innovating in the D2C space is remarkable in itself.
Yeah, totally agree. I think there's a lot at play there, and we'll jump into detail. We got a lot of slides for you guys, so and I know those aren't really good Stanley cups. You guys are going to see a lot of my early attempts at AI image generation. It actually gets better as we progress, though. So
okay, that's nice.
But this one is not. It doesn't look like much here. But all right, and I think you have some numbers for us, right, Will? Numbers breakdown. Why don't you walk us through?
Yeah, so they are doing estimated, probably 7 to 12 million visitors a month. So they are a traffic that's big. Okay.
Yeah.
We've broken down some other brands. I think Skims was like at 20 million, so they're driving a lot of traffic. And that's just on their US store. I went to some of their other stores. They have like a Brazil site and a Mexico site and some European site. The Brazil site alone was doing another 5 million visitors a month.
And that's just their D2C site.
That's just their D2C side. They are an omni-channel brand. Okay. So they probably might even be driving more. I don't know off the top of my head, but they're driving a ton of revenue as well in Target. I went to REI a few weeks ago, and there was like a whole like shelf full of Stanley.
It's a wall, right? Yeah, it's basically a wall of Stanley. Yeah.
So they're in I think they even had some in Costco. I'm not totally sure, but they're distributed, in every big retailer, just about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they also have a large Amazon presence as well. I mean, we're talking like, 45,000 reviews on their quencher. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so massive, massive omni-channel brand,
Mhm.
huge supply, sort of supply chain they're managing, but also again, the traffic side to their D2C store, over 300,000 backlinks,
Yeah. Yeah.
massive. 65% of their traffic is actually organic, or it's coming from direct or search. So they're not necessarily, um, you know, running some scaled Facebook ad funnel here or something. It's a lot of, they might be paying for influencers and stuff like that that's showing up as organic,
Mhm.
direct, um, but yeah, I mean, I think the real takeaway is just the pure amount of traffic they generate.
Yeah. Yeah. There's another. I wish I'd written this stat down. I read it somewhere, and I'm not going to say the number because I don't want it to be wrong. But if
Yeah,
somebody can find this stat and drop it in the chat, I would love that. But there's some ridiculous amount of posts on TikTok
yeah,
using the Stanley hashtag.
Stanley
Um,
hashtag. Yeah,
yeah, it's like a huge, huge, huge amount. And that was one of the things that I saw listed somewhere. I should have written it down, but we'll find that later and we'll add it. Um, but yeah, so everyone's talking about it, and it is everywhere. The 300,000 backlinks, that is no surprise at all.
yeah,
Everyone's talking about Stanley. Um, cool. Well, let's go a little bit further and talk. Okay, we just said they're in a totally new market, but the brand is actually called Stanley 1913 because that was the year that they were founded, right? So um, over 100 years old, uh, and before the founder was actually an inventor, um, and he invented like his own version of like the steel vacuum bottle to keep stuff warm. He wanted his
yeah,
coffee to stay warm when he went to work every day. Um, and the thermos and kind of like work day containers for think about guys going out and working on wherever they're early mornings taking their coffee and their lunch with them. That was the initial Stanley kind of market. um they've always had this I think an early 1900s or through the 50s and things like that, built for life, kind of like products were made better back then. It is kind
yeah.
of true though.
It is a very
There's
like built for life. Like I was looking at the subreddit built for life. That's
yeah,
probably how I originally found out about Stanley. It was like their
really, yeah,
flasks and that turquoise sort of looking
yeah,
thermos the construction workers would take on the job,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah, we actually have some pictures of those. Let me see if it is the next slide. Yeah, here we go. So
Yeah,
these are the legacy products, designed
yeah,
for the workday, taken out into the field, construction site you kind of mentioned, keeps a hot drink hot, for the entire shift. It was a very like blue collar brand,
right.
built for, their marketing was very much for like the adventurer. It's like I love this ad here. It's like on any playground, invincible,
Yeah,
accident proof. Used to go by like the Stanley Supervac. So we already talked about the primary audience, and here we can really see the benefits that they're calling out. The durability and this like revolutionary technology, keeping contents hot or cold. And they actually have this little scroll thing down here. I'm sure it's probably pretty hard to read on the presentation, but these are the guarantees: guaranteed to keep contents hot for 18 hours or cold for 36, guaranteed not to leak, guaranteed not to break. So you can see who this is speaking to. Who does that
yeah,
matter to? It's somebody who isn't going to have access to a hot beverage for up to 18 hours, or less than that. They're like 18 is way more than what I need. Or somebody that might actually be worried about it breaking because they're doing something, outside or whatever. So this is really interesting. There's some more older ads I found as well. A lot of it is, unbreakable, cannot break. Don't worry, you can't break it. So this was very much their kind of positioning in the early days. Is this like unbreakable, take it anywhere. You're on the go. This is what it's for. And so that it's very clear who the legacy market was. It was a lot more targeted to men. To I mean, these are like boots, work boots in the ad
yeah,
here. And you got a guy holding it here. This is the only time that I looked for a bunch of ads from them, and this is really the only time that it kind of featured family and that kind of thing. But again, it's the picnic. They're still
Yeah.
doing something outside.
It's giving like old direct response style
Exactly,
marketing, like
100%.
Eugene Schwartz. This
Yep.
is like predates like the Gary Halbert and and
Yeah.
Dan Kennedy type era. I mean, this is like 1940s type.
Yeah, it's definitely of that
Yeah.
era for sure.
Yeah.
One interesting thing here is, in doing a lot of the research, so Stanley's owned now by a company called PMI. It's like a parent company that owns a few different like outdoor slash
Yeah.
beverage brands. And I didn't do too much research on it, but Aladdin's and Stanley are kind of like intertwined, intermeshed, but now they're two separate brands as well. I don't really
Yeah.
understand how it
I saw
works,
that
but
on PMI. Yeah. So they own two different brands. Maybe Aladdin's has more international distribution. I don't
it
know.
could be.
I don't know exactly. I was trying to dig into more of that. And then was Thermos, was that a brand too, or was that like a just how they describe? Because I feel like that I've
Thermos
seen.
is a brand,
Yeah.
but I don't think that PMI owns it.
Okay. All right.
I think that would be crazy if they did, because they really would just own the market.
Own the market. Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, cool. So yeah, let's keep going here. I love these ads though. They're so fun to go
Yeah.
back and look at this kind of stuff. It's always really interesting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So all right. Well, we're gonna jump into the story now. Like, how did we get from here to here? Like back with these other products. The legacy stuff. You can go on their site and you can see, what this morphed into and what these products that we're
Yeah.
looking at. It was still thermoses. It was lunch boxes. It was dark greens and blacks and things like that. These products that were still being bought. I mean, they were making $75 million a year. That is nothing to like shake a stick
Yeah.
at. That's a huge brand.
Yeah.
And so they were making a lot of money doing this kind of stuff. And something that I don't think a lot of people appreciate with that is like, when you're a $75 million brand, you can't just like pivot your product strategy. It's
Yeah.
not something. It's years of planning that go into. You already know what 2027 looks like right now, at least as far as like how much volume you're projected you're going to need to do, making plans for like ordering inventory and stuff like that. And so stuff that might seem like a no-brainer is sometimes something that really has to be thought out and planned. And so really what it comes down to is the Stanley Quencher was a product that was launched in like I actually don't know when it was launched, but it was it was in the mid 2010s or whatever. And there is this influencer slash product recommendation guide called the Buy Guide. It's two sisters and their cousin. It was founded in 2017, but even before that, Ashley, one of them, was a huge fan. She just found like the Stanley Quencher online. It was only in black, and it was like kind of one of their side products. It wasn't their main thing, but she just loved it. And she started to gift it to everyone. They just had this like group chat going all the time where they were talking about products they like, and they kind of sent them to each other. They had like a small following on Instagram where we're starting to build that up. And it was one of the first things that she was just like, this is amazing, and they started sending it out to people. And as they started to build their following, everybody was really they just loved the product and was looking to find it anywhere that they could.
So that's the shift. So that is like what it was. This, I mean, we're gonna break it down more, but it was this particular influencer or site, the Buy Guide,
It's
that
right.
is
It
really. I
was.
mean, there's a couple dominoes that fell here, but I mean, this is the genesis of it. It was.
We haven't even gotten to the shift yet, to be honest.
Yeah.
These are just people that they took notice. They started using it, and they used it for a reason outside of like what it was designed for, in a way,
Right.
or like at least
Yeah.
how it was being marketed and targeted like throughout there. Because um like we have here on the slides, like they're creating a product recommendation account on Instagram to help parents like run their household. It's like busy
Right.
moms, how do we keep up with being in the car all day, to going from soccer practice to like piano lessons to whatever, but they were trying to do it like very, and it's an affiliate marketing play, like a lot of these kind of accounts and things are. Um, but they took a very like, we must actually like this product to promote it.
Yeah.
They actually, even to this day, they don't like push products that somebody pays them to do. They will get paid to do it, but they'll only do it if they actually use the product and actually like it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So we're here with the buy guide. So these sisters, and they do that. Okay. So they were a huge
Yep.
fan of the quencher, and they were using
Exactly.
it. Was it back then? It wasn't all these colors. It was just like the
It's
same
just
ugly
black.
turk. It was just black.
Black and
Okay.
it was black and like green. I think there might have been,
Okay.
but I think it might have only been black.
Okay. So
But
what did they see that's unique in that like
yeah,
sort?
so this is exactly it. The
Yeah.
quencher was perfect to go for on the go. You can see right here, it fits in the cup holder, but it's huge. It
Right.
has the small bottom, so you can fit in the cup holder. The same kind of thing that was touted early on. It keeps your hots hot, your colds cold for
Mhm.
however long you want to. Really easy to clean. The handle is something that people quote all the time as being it's easy to grab. The straw, it's dishwasher safe, like that kind of stuff. So it's very much just like a cup that you can fill up in the morning,
Right.
and it's going to last you all day long. And
It's a
you're
good
still going to have
product. You
ice.
have to have, and
It's a great product.
we tell this to clients all the time. Like your product
Yeah,
has to be good. You know,
has to be good.
has to be good. Okay, so they start with a good product that is, sort of being used, or just like an untapped market, kind of,
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, but it was hard to find. I guess
It
is
was
kind of what
super scarce.
super
Yeah,
scarce.
it
Yeah,
it was just like people were just like finding them on Amazon. There was like,
yeah,
they weren't like a super D2C brand. So, and the old Stanley, uh, the old Stanley website was like really hard to
right.
navigate. It didn't work very well, and it was just like really really hard to find. And one of those reasons was Stanley had actually discontinued the product around that
Yeah,
time.
wow.
So anything that was left was just like the end of the production runs.
Right,
And so like everything that was all of the cups that were, being bought were just ones that people could like scour the internet to find.
right.
The dregs basically. I really love this AI image. I wish I could have gotten the cup to look more like a Stanley, but very much just like women hunting through the jungle to find these like coveted cups.
Yeah.
Um, and so
So it almost
the
already created like a little bit of scarcity there, which is
100%.
which
Yeah,
is
very,
sort of
but
people were,
very
yeah,
natural
natural
scarcity, not
scarcity.
because of
Yeah,
inventory, not because it's just because they had no idea that anyone wanted the cup, and like that it was
right.
this popular in this niche, very niche market that if you're not a part of, you wouldn't really even know that it exists. Um, and the buy guide was still pretty small at this time. They're a really big channel now. Um, but they did not have nearly the following, so they couldn't really like get in contact with anyone at Stanley or anything like that. And like I
Yeah,
just said, if you're not a part of this like community, you're not going to really like know that it's such a big hit,
right.
until a few dominoes fell here. So Emily Maynard, who's on the right up there, so she was I think on The Bachelor, and the
Yeah,
buy guide actually gifted her. They sent her a Stanley when she had a baby, as like a gift for that. And she posted a picture of it, the present on Instagram, and mentioned the buy guide, mentioned the Stanley. And then Lauren Solomon, who's on the left there, she's sales. What I think she's VP of sales or sales, or, head. She's high up in Stanley, on the sales side. She saw the post
yeah.
from Emily and reached out to the buy guide. So she
Okay,
reached out to the women there and was like, "Hey, like, let's chat. What are you seeing? What's going on?"
right,
Um, and so she really kind of became their like internal contact. She
right.
became kind of the champion of this new potential market, um, within Stanley as a company, because she had direct access to kind of the leadership team and stuff like that since she's in the company. Um, and so this is kind of really where everything got started. It was Lauren that kind of like noticed, saw something that was bubbling up, and started to
Yeah.
try and bring it to the company.
So okay, yeah, so a couple things going on here. So we have the first one is like there's the buy guide. Okay. So that's
Hmm.
domino one. And then these two things happen. I think one is like a key influencer here,
Hmm. Hmm.
Emily, from the back. So I mean that really helps if you can have that sort of an influencer like behind your brand, like a one that's really popular, that has a
Huge.
lot of authority. And like this is we're coming back to like why the brands work, and it's like if you can obviously a lot of brands want a ton of influencers, but sometimes just getting that one, the first one
Yeah.
that's key.
Yeah.
But I also want to touch on this other thing that's really interesting. And I think that uh, we should talk about um, is this regional sales manager. You
Yeah.
know, um, like okay, so we've worked with legacy brands,
Yeah.
and I've worked with legacy brands that have sales teams, and a lot of them are just totally clueless on the marketing side.
Yeah.
So, the vision that I think this sales manager had, or maybe it's just the culture they have at Stanley. I
Yeah.
think I don't know what because I'm not there day to day, but I think that like that is to me very, very remarkable
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
somebody was sort of because in these legacy companies, you're just not you're so like they just get very bureaucratic,
Right.
You can get
Right.
punished for taking risks like this,
100%.
and
A
so
hundred
like
percent.
the fact that that happened, I think is really, really key.
Yeah. And I just looked it up because I wanted to make sure we get Lauren's position right. She's actually national sales director. I don't know if she was a
Yeah,
director at the time. It also
right,
says regional sales manager in her role in her about me. But
right,
just in case she's watching or something like that, who knows?
yeah,
Lauren is a director at Stanley, but it's true that vision is huge. None of this would have happened without
yeah,
that notice and that. We talk about this all the time of sometimes when brands want to shift from like maybe agency support to like in-house and stuff like that, one
yeah,
of the benefits of that of like hiring somebody full time is you get their shower thoughts. We
yeah,
always say, are they thinking about your brand in the shower?
yeah,
Lauren was just on Instagram and saw Emily post and
yeah,
was like, oh, Emily posted about our product. Like,
yeah,
where did this come from? How does this affect, our ability to sell Stanley? And it takes a lot of foresight to be able to be like, hey, this is really what it is. And it's funny that you mentioned there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of stuff that comes into it. Stanley didn't see that vision.
of course,
They didn't understand,
yeah,
what this whole new market was going to be. Like I said before, they're already doing 70 million a year. At
yeah,
that scale, manufacturing, production strategy, all of that is locked in like well in advance. So somebody's saying like, hey, this is happening, like we should reinstate this product. Because you have to remember the quencher is discontinued. Like they
yeah,
have decided we're not making that anymore. So that's like, hey, factories, throw away your molds. Like, hey, like we don't
yeah,
need that product anymore, right? And this is like 2017, 18ish,
yeah.
I think. And so like influencer marketing is a pretty new
New thing,
thing. It's not like now where everyone kind of understands what an influencer is and like how that works and why that's a big, why they have so much power in the market right now. So they just like kind of refuse to reinstate the product. And like I know that Lauren was just like pushing and pushing and pushing,
yeah.
and there was, she just kept on hitting walls, and them trying to reinstate the product.
Well, I think you brought up a good point that like they're, earlier when you're doing $75 million, you're kind of already scaled,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you already have you know, like budgets and production like already pre-approved years out. And it's hard to
Hmm.
sometimes even find the money to invest in something like that. And there
Totally.
might not have been the data to justify um, bringing back a discontinued product. Like they discontinued that quencher for a reason originally,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So just to play devil's advocate for the executives at Stanley, I could see why they might back then, in hindsight, been like, hey, like maybe we don't want to like consider doing this. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they were wrong. And
Right.
there was a huge trend that 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 they basically eventually were able to untap here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I think some people probably lost their jobs over this.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
there was a leadership change like soon
Okay.
after the stuff that we talk
Okay.
about here in a little bit. So yes, they were wrong, and they probably regret being wrong and not
Yeah.
listening to Lauren.
Yeah.
But so they refused to reinstate the product. But what Lauren was able to get for the Buy Guide girls
Yeah.
was wholesale prices, but they had to do a minimum order from the factory, which is 5,000 quenchers.
Yeah.
So the Buy Guide just had to straight up just buy 5,000 quenchers, um,
I
and
mean,
then sell them themselves.
we talk about creating raving fans here,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like a raving fan is someone who goes and like not just follows you on Instagram and buys your product, but comes back and buys again and then tells their friends
yeah,
about it at a party.
yeah,
Might have to adjust that to placing
yeah. Willing
5,000
to,
unit
yeah,
wholesale orders with you. Talk about like raving, like rabid raving fans here.
hundred
If you're
percent.
willing to, and think like that. Let's just do the math. What is a Stanley Cup is $50, $45,
Yeah, something like
right?
that. I think it might have been a little. I think it might have been 35 or 40 back then. I think they've
Okay,
gone up in price.
so
I
let's
would
just
say
say their wholesale price is $10,
18. Yeah,
18,
15.
15. Okay, 15 times $5,000, $75,000
Yep.
probably. Let's just do a napkin math here
Yeah.
on a wholesale
Yeah.
order. Now they didn't have to pay all that up front, probably, but still,
Right.
like that's crazy.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And so they took the risk. They did it to just see what would happen. Um, and they sold out in 5 days.
Wow.
Just immediate. 5 days, sold it out. So they did another 5,000 and they sold out in an hour the second time they did it.
And how did they do? Did they drop that
Just
on like
to their
Instagram
followers. They just
to their
they just
followers?
sent it to their followers. Yeah,
It wasn't.
exactly. It
They
was
didn't even do
all.
like an email or anything,
I mean,
or
I'm not sure on the exact.
yeah,
That's a really good question. I wonder if we can like find out what
yeah,
how they ran that drop themselves.
yeah.
But that would be some really interesting insight. But yeah, I think they might have just posted it. I think, and then between two, they sold 10,000. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so they knew that they were onto something here. It was just
So
very
now the
clear
data
that
backs it up. Okay,
yeah,
like you
yeah,
sold 5,000 in 1 hour. It's like okay, this is a huge trend now that
yeah, yeah.
we have to capitalize on.
Yeah, so I think that obviously there's a trend here that they're seeing,
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm not sure the inner workings of all of this. Is there's not a lot of details on anything like that, but
yeah,
I'm not sure if this changed the sentiment in the like exec in the leadership,
yeah.
or anything like that. But what did happen is Lauren invited the women from the Buy Guide to the Outdoor Retailer Conference in 2019.
Which
Um,
is like the conference for
exactly.
which I guess at that time Stanley. I guess they're
They were
technically
they're outdoor band, 100%. Yeah,
yeah,
like that's what they market themselves as, the outdoorsman, the adventurer
yeah.
type thing.
But now they're you know, I don't even know what you would categorize them
Yeah,
as.
I don't either. I have no idea. Um, so that's really where things change. So this is
Okay.
Lauren, with the women from the Buy Guide,
Okay.
um, and so the thing that I think is really interesting here is that they met the CEO of PMI. I can't. His name is Bob something. I can't remember the CEO at the time. And he was the one that actually I think uh, was like, okay, wait, I get this. We have to do this type thing.
Yeah.
He's the one that finally listened. Um, and I think a really interesting fact about that is, and the Buy Guide mentions this on their article about how all this went down, is that he's a dad of 5 girls. So
Yeah.
like he understood. He was probably on. He knew about influencers and Instagram and how that was like kind of how that affected their behavior and stuff like that. So an understanding of the market, I think, helped him kind of be able to connect the dots. Um, and see like, oh wait, this is like a huge opportunity if they were able to do that, and
Yeah.
there is real power in this ability to sell to a market like that.
Yeah.
um and so yeah, this is really where everything shifted.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Like coming back to like how this brand, like why does this work? Why did this 10x, this company 10x? And I think that especially for legacy brands, I think if you're a small business or you're just startup brand, like it's real easy to kind of have a vision or it's sort of founder led. But I think in these companies, it's much harder to do to like have that foresight and vision. Um,
Yeah,
and we already talked about Lauren having it, but like she ran into a lot of challenges, like sort of getting that vision, like I guess propagated and distributed and aligned within the company. You know,
100%. Yeah,
um, but it's really big. I think that like we have to talk about that. Like you have to have a vision, some sort of vision in order. It's sometimes like no matter like we do these funnel breakdowns, we go through all the data, but
yeah,
eventually, like sometimes you're gonna have to like extrapolate out on like what
yeah,
the opportunity could be, and you're gonna have to
yeah.
take some risks.
Agreed. And I think that there's on top of that just this need to I, listen. You
Yeah,
just got to listen, because
yeah,
something that you and I have found over these years of running our own business and the agency and stuff like that is like the best ideas often don't come from us.
yeah,
It's about listening to how other people are doing things, or what the way that they think about it. And you have to have a person that is willing to listen be the one that is kind of steering that vision.
yeah,
Because that's where you're going to get all of these ideas, as it came from Lauren here, and as it came from the market and the buy guide telling Stanley what they need and what they want. um, so it's cool to see. It actually happened. It took a lot of pushing, but they made it work. So yeah, so let's start talking about the transformation, because this is really where everything starts to really change at Stanley. um, the buy guide was like, you guys need a new site, you need an affiliate program, and then from there we can help you do the rest. Like, we can really show you the power of
yeah,
influencer marketing. um, and so the adoption of this new market was just like such a big shift for them. um, you know Moving to targeting women, targeting moms and households. Hey, can we get this in a color other than black? Like, can
yeah,
we not have something that looks like it belongs in my backpacking gear, and have something instead that's maybe like a little bit cute? um, and then I think there's also this is also where it starts to shift, because you said before, like, okay, they were an outdoor brand. There's part of me that also like considers Stanley a little bit of a luxury brand now as well.
yeah,
um Not necessarily fully into the, like, Dior or whatever, Dolce and Gabbana type area, but like, this is about 7 or 8 times as expensive as the same like comp
yeah.
that you can buy at like Walmart or
It's a
whatever.
premium brand now because you can go and get like you can go to TJ Maxx and get like a Quencher knockoff. You know,
Right, exactly, and
um,
it's $8
yeah.
or whatever, or ten
It's a
bucks.
it's a status symbol, like
100%.
having a Stanley Cup,
Yeah,
like I was in the
yeah,
airport yesterday, I saw one, I was in,
right.
I see him in the gym all the time,
100%. Yeah. So yeah, it's very much just like changing of the guard in terms of like where they focus on. And you look at their old website, and it was a lot more rough, a lot more darker colors and woodsy
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And now you look at the website and it's all like light. I'm pretty sure their cover image right now is like a woman playing like pickleball or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's such a seismic shift from like backpacking to pickleball. And so it's cool to see. So let's go a little bit further. Oh, this is just a quick sidebar. Something really interesting about all of this. So one of the places that Stanley really took off, like in an even smaller microcosm of like the internet world, was this like demographic of Utah moms.
Yeah.
So highly, Utah has a large population of Latter-day Saints. who don't drink caffeine or like hot caffeine. I can't remember what the rules are. Sorry, I'm not Mormon, so I don't know. I should have asked Jenkin. But there's a this category of dirty soda. I don't know if you had heard about this before starting to do this research, but dirty soda is apparently these shops that you can go to where you can mix sodas and flavors and creamers. And actually, this AI image is actually like um, this is kind of like the founding dirty soda. It's Coke, creamer, and or like coconut cream and lemon juice, I think, is like or lime juice is like the mixture. And that's like it's like, as we would go and like grab a drink and go to a bar or whatever, people will like go to
Yeah.
Swig or like wherever to like go and have a soda together. And the big thing about this with like the Utah moms is everyone's doing it in their Stanley cup.
Yeah.
This is like, you go and see the get ready with me like videos on Instagram or those kind of things. Everyone's doing this like dirty soda stuff in a Stanley. They're like
Outfit of
making
the
it in a
day.
Stanley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup of the because it's like basically I think what it is there's something around caffeine
Hmm.
um and soda with Mormonism. I'm not totally sure
Yeah.
exactly what it is, but I think that was like, coming back to like why this worked, hyper super niche, basically
Hmm.
is what I'm hearing,
Hmm. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
super niche. And then they were able to get, um, some key influencers early on.
Yeah.
And then and then eventually like the CEO and some people internally really had the vision. But I think that like it started with this sort of Utah base of moms
Yeah.
that were using this because of what we talked about earlier.
Exactly. There's a lot of and if I find it I think I might have even added it to the breakdown, but there's this reel of a girl explaining the whole like Utah dirty soda
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I just had to throw it in there because it's such a unique little, we talk about finding your audience. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even know what culture is out there that might be using your product for a certain
Yeah.
reason. And so like paying attention to those trends and like leaning into those trends is always going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Um, so
Just being
let's
open minded towards it. I think we could
yeah,
all use
yeah,
that lesson.
yeah,
This is their old
100%.
website. Wow. Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
and they yeah, I mean, we went from firemen to pickleball is actually the change. But the reality is like Stanley was not ready for
yeah.
like this massive of a change. The buy guide on their story talks about, that there was just like so many problems trying to buy. You had to like go through, it took so long, terrible user experience. The website just couldn't keep up with the volume of the traffic. And so they totally overhauled their site. It eventually was launched in like November of 2020. Um, and this was all from a push for this like digital transformation just to be able to handle, with a lot of, I think a lot of their sales previously were at, retail locations. You're buying it at, Dick's Sporting Goods and REI or Walmart or something like that, where you're going to buy a coffee tumbler or something, where people that were buying it before exist, but now all of a sudden people are finding it online and wanting to buy it online. And Stanley just wasn't ready for that actual for the traffic that they were going to get. And so there was a lot of work that they had to do on the back end to like really overhaul how they
Yeah. No, I mean, it's crazy.
it
Like
really is.
the transformation. When you compare their website now versus what it was in 2020, it's
Yeah,
like a
no,
totally different demographic.
it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so another big part of this, and I think I'm not sure who was responsible for making this decision, or it might have been the CEO of PMI that kind of saw the vision as well. And I kind of talked about before that I think there was some leadership changes um, after all of this kind of went down. And what they did is they hired probably the number one person that you want to be running a brand as you go through
Yeah.
a shift like this into a new market. And that guy, his name is Terrence Riley. So Terrence made Crocs cool.
Yeah.
He worked there for like 6 or 7 years, I think. When he started, Crocs were a joke. Crocs were, just like super lame. I can't even remember. Crocs have been around for so long, but
They were
when
like for like boat people and like
at first, yeah,
yeah, and then
yeah,
I think they had come out with they've definitely like totally become cool in the last couple like celebrities started there's like a supreme drop of
right,
Crocs,
exactly, exactly. No, I mean when I was in high school, I remember because they were super lame to the point that me and my band kid friends like went and bought them and all had them as like a joke, like side thing. Like we all had the little things on them and everything, which is actually cool now, which is hilarious
Yeah,
because we were the lame ones for having them back then. Um, but Terrence is the one that took them from kind of not cool at all to like literally on the red carpet now. And his playbook is exactly kind of what Stanley needed to take advantage of this new traffic, the new audience, and everything like that. And so Riley joined Stanley as president in May of 2020. So all this stuff had already happened. Like they had already reinstated the product, the buy guide, and Lauren had kind of like made the inroads. And I think this is like PMIs and the leadership changes like move to really support that. It's like, okay, we
right.
see this new market now. Like, who do we put at the helm who has experience in doing this, like
Yeah.
digital transformation and kind of like leading us into this
So this is
new
another
era?
domino that's key to go to, I
Right.
think, to scaling from like,
Exactly.
I've noticed this from going like working with some bigger brands. Like you got to get the right team. Like to go
100%.
from 70 to 700 million, you
Right.
need like we got the vision, then you need like someone, and it's helpful to have someone that's done it before, with
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. And Terrence is that guy. Terrence is also the one who you remember the Stanley Cup and the car fire thing. I don't
Yeah.
know if
Yeah.
if people have seen this where like a girl's car catches on fire, she like escapes it and
The
leaves and
Stanley
comes
Cup
back
was
to
the
like
only
check.
thing that survived.
Stanley Cup was the only thing that survived, like sitting in the
Yeah.
cup holder.
Yeah.
Terrence is the one in the response video. He's the one that's actually saying like, "Hey, we're gonna buy you a new car" and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so he just has he's just a natural knack for
He's such a
yeah,
marketer. He's such a
yeah,
good marketer.
yeah.
So he's president of Stanley now. He moved
Okay.
from CMO at Crocs to president at Stanley. And his playbook, it's funny because you already touched on some of these things that are really interesting, really fun to talk about. And let's look at, he used his playbook. There's a bunch of articles out there as well if you guys want to do even more research on it. But he has kind of some main things that he talked about as like what shifts they really made to like bring the success again.
Right.
And so, the first one that you talked about was that you already talked about is like find your organic influencers.
Yeah.
There are people that just already love your product. It could be Utah moms and you have no idea, but there's, 15, 20 different Instagram accounts that each have 30,000 followers that right there could be, 300,000 new purchasers of your product, right?
Mm.
Um, and so find and collaborate with people that already love your product to take advantage of their audience, to be a part of that community and like really serve that community. um Suppose Terrence quote like talks about the first breakthrough at Crocs was actually that Post Malone loves Crocs.
Yeah.
So there's like a video or whatever of him wearing Crocs on stage at a performance, and they just like immediately reached out to him, right? um I think he saw the potential probably with working with the buy guide at Stanley. I know he quoted like Carrie Underwood also just posted, a picture of
Yeah.
her with a Stanley, and they jump on it. That's the whole thing. Is like as soon as you see somebody with your product, reach out quickly, try to get a collaboration because they just naturally like it. It's not like paid placement. It's just like, hey, how do we kind of ride this wave of somebody wearing or using our product,
Right.
to kind of put it into the spotlight and
So
make
just
sure that other people.
starting organically, keeping it simple, like
100%.
who is already kind of a fan, basically.
Yeah, because you're not, if you can ride that wave, you don't need to pay for the traffic or the audience because that person is
Right.
already bringing the audience. And then you
Right.
just have to bring attention to the fact
Right.
that they're wearing your product or using your product.
Okay.
Um, and so finding organic influencers instead of trying to tackle this like, oh, who am I going to pay to talk about my product?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is embrace scarcity. We already talked about this in the beginning with the buy guide. People they they couldn't find a Stanley anywhere, just for natural reasons. But even after that, Stanley continued to embrace the drop model that they do,
Yeah.
like in sneaker and clothing brands and stuff. Um, there was 150,000 people waiting list for a Stanley at one point.
Wow.
Um, yeah, just
That's
like
insane.
absolutely
Yeah.
insane. That's,
Yeah.
that's what
That's
people
huge.
hope to do in the lifetime of a store sometimes, is
Yeah.
150,000 sales.
We talk about scarcity all the time, how
Yeah,
like powerful of a model this is, but it has to
yeah,
be done naturally, especially if you're a scaled up brand.
hmm
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's, basically taking that scarcity model that works in sneakers, like we talked about Supreme, Nike does drops,
yeah,
Yeezy, and just like basically taking a strategy that's already proven in another market and rolled it over to this market.
yep, yep. No,
It's a
it's
it's
working.
a great model. Yeah, yeah,
It really is. It's working. I mean, there's if you go on the Stanley website, you know,
mhm,
7 out of 10 of their products are sold out, and it's all of the like non-standard stuff.
yeah,
They did like a Chinese New Year thing,
yeah.
and
I saw
they're
that. Yeah,
completely sold out. They did,
yeah,
there's videos of like people being trampled at
yeah,
Target to like get the Valentine's one.
yeah. And then people go
Um,
and like flip these on like eBay and stuff,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
100%. Like
yeah,
there's a whole secondary market for it as well,
yeah,
resale market. And so, that's just like a huge indication of like brand penetration and your brand becoming more than just like a cup at the end of
yeah,
the day. And it really has start to, we talked about it as it's like an item of prestige, or it's like it's something that you want to be seen with, right? Um, Unfortunately, like kids are getting bullied over Stanleys now. Like if someone has like a knockoff Stanley, like kids are getting like made fun of for not having, that's something that's being talked about. Um, and the other thing as well, and one thing that I'll point out is that one question of, as they go into this scarcity model, and they start coming out with all these different drops and things, it's becoming like a collector's item. And
yeah,
so in a way, it's like moving away from the sustainability aspect of it, because if somebody's buying 25 Stanleys, or 10 Stanleys or whatever, it's supposed to be a buy it for life, you have one type thing, and now it's like, okay, collect all the colors. um so it's just, there is a dichotomy there of like, how far do you take this, how far do you move away from the original kind of like
right,
core value there. But it's definitely a model that is working for them right now.
right.
So we'll see if this has been the peak of the wave, or if this is going to continue on, and continue to be a trend, because we do know that social media and the social kind of what's popular is a very fickle subject. So who knows what 2024 holds for them.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then one more strategy, which we've talked a lot about already, is omni-channel is the
omni-channel.
future.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's that Stanley wall that you were talking about.
yeah. That's crazy.
um
It's all color
yeah,
coordinated too. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And they're everywhere right now. They're absolutely everywhere. Every ad, they're all over the place, both in the digital world and in person. Their
right.
retail presence is expanding. TikTok, like I said, there's so
Yeah,
many, videos about them, collaborations, limited editions, like they're all being launched. I think the Target one was a Starbucks like Valentine's Day thing, or maybe the Starbucks one was different. I don't remember, but it's very clear that like this drop collaboration model is going to be something that they continue to pursue. And so I think that, that really is the question now, is like, is this a flash in the pan? Was 750 like a great year for them to have? And is it going to be down from here just because of the fickle, like I said, the fickle nature of like social media and kind of like social trends? Or is this going to be something that continues, that they can kind of capitalize on and continue to, drive that level of revenue and like
right.
expansion? So we'll see.
So yeah. So I guess the three things that like really that you highlighted were the scarcity,
hmm
omni-channel, and what was the other one? The third
Scarcity,
omni-channel,
omni-channel, and the organic influencers.
organic influencers. Okay, yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
those. I think that, we've been building this case on why this brand like really kind of took off, and like they had to get like the foundation set.
Yeah.
But it was like these sort of three core strategies.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like just to touch on the omni-channel thing too, it's just, these guys are, I think that this is where being a legacy brand probably really like is probably was a huge asset to them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because I think that like as like a lot of our clients will work with, they don't really understand omni-channel. They're like having to figure this out. They're having to figure out like what like supply chain and managing that and the cash flow and all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And they might have just started out as like a Shopify store, while they probably had all of these systems in place already. So I
Yeah.
bet that was a huge proponent on like how they were probably able to get shelves full of this stuff, because they just had over 100 years, you know,
Yeah.
building out this brand and putting those systems in place.
Agreed. And it's, I think another portion of that as well is figuring out how to get the contacts you need actually at a retail location to be able to like get placement in the store. So
Yeah,
that's another huge aspect of it.
yeah.
Um, all right. Sorry, I just got my dog came over and I got a sticker in my thumb.
Okay.
Ah, okay. All right. Um, so was there anything you wanted to talk about specifically with the, oh, first off, everyone, we'll come back to this in a minute, but we'll be able to get the resources. But I want to talk about the actual breakdown itself.
Yeah.
Um, and I wanted to jump in and let you kind of walk us through if there was anything in particular you wanted to talk about that you feel like was really worth noting. And as everyone saw, we have a link to download all these resources, so you're going to be able to go through in detail with the with the breakdown. And there's some other resources we'll talk about too. But
Yeah.
any highlights, Will, you wanna go through?
Well, I think we kind of talked about it at a high level. I think that really the omni channel is really
Hmm.
huge. Just all three of these channels are massive businesses.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
their brick and mortar presence, like we talked about REI, Target, Dick's Sporting Goods. I saw them in Whole Foods, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then you have this Amazon presence that they might have had that sort of channel built up
Yeah.
from their legacy brand, because that legacy product has a lot of reviews too.
Yeah.
Um, so they might have had that channel, but I think that where they've really transformed is their D2C brand. And I think it's like I think they're really just scratching the surface here. Because
Yeah.
somebody from their company reached out to me um, and told me they're actually in the process of launching a new site. Um, so by
Awesome.
the time this, like, there could be a total new site coming. But I think
Yeah.
that, like, it really is a very basic Shopify theme. If
Yeah.
you if you
It is
scroll
basic.
if you scroll back to the beginning of the funnel, they drive a lot of traffic to. They're using a lot of organic search, and it's coming a lot of times to these collection pages. You know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that I don't know if it's like Quencher or Drinkware is like one of their top
Hmm.
pages. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and then that kind of speaks to where, like, what we were talking about, this assortment of colors, because then people can go and choose which color they want.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but a lot of times they're just going to the product page that has like 25 different colors.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
and then when you look at their like pre-purchase flow, like their pop-ups and stuff like that, um, it's
Okay. Thank you.
it's very much like the same. Um, it's really not like that. It's a very simple pop-up. They're
Hmm.
actually using the same one, I think, on desktop and mobile.
Hmm.
Pre-purchase flow is pretty basic, you know.
Yep.
Um, and then you move into the actual um, keep scrolling over to the product page and the cart. They're not even doing like a lot of this stuff that people like, these cart upsells with like scarcity countdown timers and upsells and cross sells. I think it's just the stock theme cart.
Yeah.
Um, nothing going on crazy in the checkout. And it's like pretty standard all the way through. And if you go all the way uh, through to, they do one thing that we're seeing a lot is this refer a friend. They do this. I've seen a lot of brands do this on the thank you page of the checkout. So
Hmm.
there is some strategy here a little bit. But yeah, like all their shipping emails are standard Shopify type shipping
Hmm.
emails. I will
Yeah.
say, and I think this is another reason why I think they've just had a jump start. Like this is one of the benefits I think of being a legacy brand is their unboxing experience is pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, they have like pretty good packaging, like custom packaging for the quencher.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, now like I'm just like, and I've gone through a lot of their newsletters and stuff, and I feel like they're literally just getting started with this stuff. Like they're doing all these
Yeah.
drops, you know, they're getting them a little bit. I'm seeing them get styled better and better, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that there is like a lot of potential to just totally overhaul this funnel. You know?
Agreed. Yeah. It is. I think it's one of those things that we've talked about before as well, where it's like, traffic fixes a lot of problems, right?
Yeah,
They don't need
yeah,
to be doing anything special along this entire funnel. If you have enough people coming through, it doesn't need to be optimized. There's already so much of a desire to purchase some of this stuff that, any work you do is kind of secondary to just like adding more traffic and more buzz and things like that. And so I think it really does come down to that this year is going to be kind of the pivotal time for them to figure out if this is going to be something that continues or something that just kind of fizzles after a big spike in sales.
yeah. I mean, I
But
think I
that.
already see people pivoting to other smaller ones like the 20
Hmm.
ounce, and then there's this
Hmm.
bigger one now, and
Yeah.
I mean, who knows, like the life cycle. There's always the life cycle of a product or a trend, but I
Hmm.
think that this, like, who knows if they'll be able to maintain that $700 million run rate. They might even be able to expand it with some of this international stuff they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that like the days of I don't think they're going back to 70 million.
No, definitely
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Definitely not.
yeah,
No way.
yeah.
No way.
No way. I mean, they've hit a whole new stratosphere.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah,
All right. Well, we're coming up on time here, so I just want to let everyone know that all of these resources are available um, at flowcandy.com/Stanley. So you'll get the whole funnel, this entire breakdown. There's also a full spreadsheet that Will did with all of the numbers, the traffic, what pages people are going to, and things like that. You'll get access to these slides, and then of course you'll get the link to the video and everything that comes through. And so again, that is just flowcandy.com/Stanley, and I will go ahead and throw it in the chat right now. Yeah, and so if you want to grab all this stuff and go through on your own, take a look, um, go and opt in there, and we'll send it to you. Okay. Any last things you'd like to add, Will?
nope, good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time. If you have any suggestions for what our next brand that we do the whole breakdown on, let us know. We're always open to suggestions, but we'll see y'all next time.
Later,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.